Peace be with you, and also with you. Welcome to another Open the Book story from Cowley Team Ministry. Welcome from wherever you're watching, whether you're here with me in Cowley at home like I am, maybe you're in school, whether you're in Oxford, or whether you're beyond watching from somewhere else. Welcome. First thing we do in our Open the Book is light the candle. Now, our Bible story today follows on from a story that we recorded last week. That story was called Best Friends. Here's my best friend here, or one of my best friends. She's called Isabel. Now, in the story Best Friends, we heard about David, who had become king, and his best friend Jonathan. Jonathan's dad, Saul, really hated David. Now, it must have been difficult for David, knowing that Saul really hated him and wanted to kill him. David hadn't even done anything wrong. I think sometimes he must have wanted to get his own back on King Saul. I wonder what will happen in today's story. Let's open the book and read. Run for your life!
Run for your life. David ran. Some of his loyal soldiers and friends ran with him. They ran up into the mountains, away from the city. They ran where it was rocky and dry, where only the wild animals went. They ran and hid in caves, always moving on, afraid to stay in one place for too long. Why were they always running? Why were they hiding in the rocks and the caves? Because of King Saul, because of his jealousy and fear and hatred for David. David the hero who everyone loved except for Saul. He was afraid that David would try to be king instead of him, and so he kept on and on, chasing David and trying to kill him. Month after month this went on, running, hiding, running, hiding. But David prayed. He prayed to God all the time. He prayed that God would look after him and show him what to do next. And every time Saul's soldiers drew close, God would answer David's prayer and warn him, telling him when to run and where to hide. One day, Saul found out that David was hiding in the wilderness. So he took 3,000 soldiers and set off to hunt him down. David and his loyal men ran this way and that. They found a cave they could hide in, a cave with a small entrance you hardly noticed from the outside, even though it was big inside. It was a good place for exhausted and frightened men to hide in. David kept watch and he prayed, and he asked God to show him what to do next. Hours went by, and then down in the valley, David saw the soldiers coming with Saul leading them. He couldn't believe his eyes. The soldiers were heading straight towards them. What should he do? King Saul called out to his soldiers.
"We've lost them, men, and we'll never find them now. They must be miles away. Find yourselves somewhere to rest for now."
David and his friends watched. They watched Saul struggle up the hillside, leaving the soldiers behind. He was coming alone, and he was heading straight towards the cave where David and his men were hiding.
Oh no!
groaned David.
Why did he have to pick this cave? Oh, quick then, hide right at the back of the cave. Quick, shh, he won't notice us here.
But David,
One of his men said.
surely this is the chance you've been waiting for. Here is Saul all on his own, and he doesn't even know we're here. We could jump right on him now and kill him, and then you wouldn't have to keep running away.
And he pulled out his dagger, ready to pounce.
No,
Said David, whispering, for Saul was now very close.
we've got no permission from God to kill the king. We must not kill him, whatever he's done to us. God will take him away at the right time. But give me your dagger. I've got a better plan.
Saul came closer. He came closer and closer until eventually he was so close they could even hear him yawning.
Oh.
Saul peered into the cave, but it was dark and he could see no one. He found a comfy spot at the front of the cave and settled down for a rest. David crept forward with his dagger in his hand. He crept forward inch by inch. What was he planning? He reached forward carefully, and cut off a piece of Saul's cloak with the dagger. Saul didn't feel a thing, and David carefully crept back into the darkness of the cave. Saul got up and stretched. He had no idea what had happened and started walking down the hillside. When he was some distance away, David leapt out of his hiding place.
My king!
He shouted, waving the piece of cloak he'd cut off.
See what I have here? I was so close to you in that cave just now, and I could have killed you. But I didn't. I chose to protect you. I'm not against you. I'm not a rebel. God must decide what happens to you, not me. Now do you believe that I wish you no harm?
Saul couldn't believe his eyes and his ears.
Oh, David, my boy, I've been wrong all this time. You've always treated me well, even when I treated you badly. You are right with God, and one day you will make a good king.
So Saul called off his soldiers and left David alone for a while. Eventually, King Saul died fighting the Philistines, and finally it was David's turn to be king. David had waited a long time to be king. He had been waiting ever since Samuel anointed him as a small shepherd boy. He had been waiting on the battlefield. He'd been waiting in the wilderness. And now all his waiting was over. David was crowned king at last.
David knew that it was God in control and God would deal with Saul at the right time. In the Bible, there's a section in it called Psalms. Most of them are written by David and they give praise to God. In one of them, Psalm 18, that's number 18 out of 150, in Psalm 18, David writes, "How I love you, Lord. You are my defender. The Lord is my protector, and with you I am safe." Now, feeling safe It's when we know that we're taken care of, that no harm can come to us. So let's sit quietly for a moment together and just have a think about feeling safe. Now I'm going to say a prayer, and if you want to make it your prayer, you can say Amen at the end after me. Dear God, I thank you that David could feel safe because of you. Thank you that we can feel safe with you. Thank you for those who work to protect people from harm. Amen.